Right. So let's get started. So let's start with few basic terminologies which we need to know before we enter into core concepts of this course. So first, what is database? A database is a collection of information or a collection of data. Okay. So now, for example, in our QA Click Academy site, I teach more than 10 testing courses which are related to automation, mobile and manual performance and all. Now, so many students got enrolled in each of these courses. Okay. Now, how would I mean differentiate between the people who enrolled in this SQL course or the people who enrolled in mobile automation testing course or Selenium, whatever it is. So actually this database will help us to store the data about anything in an organized way. Now about anything in the sense, in our scenario, I'm talking about students who enrolled in my courses. Okay, so it stores in a proper way that people who enrolled in this SQL course will be in form of one structure or one crustal, and the people who enrolled in other course will be in other format. I mean, they will be stored in separate tables, which I'll talk in the next slide. Fine. The organization will be in a proper format in a database so that it can be easily accessed, managed and updated. Now I want a student or I want a student count of the people who enrolled in SQL. I can get within a milliseconds if they are stored in a database, because in that way we will use a proper organization structure in a database so that whatever information we need about that data we will be getting in a few milliseconds. Right. So now if you want to if you forget about database and if you just store those all information in a small paper or in a records, to get an accurate data you have to go through entire all the stuff about what course and how many students. But if you store them in a database, it will be easy for you to access within a milliseconds using SQL commands, which I'll talk about later part, and you can even manage them. Right. Now what database consists of? We are talking about that it stores the data, but how it stores? So here is an example. A database is collection of tables. So now we'll see what is a table. You all know that a table is a collection of data entries which have a columns and rows. Okay, now for example, let me show you a basic column here. Yeah, this is our table, right? Here it has totally 4 columns: name, course, price, validity. Now if I want to enter any student information into these tables, okay, I can enter his complete entry in one record, like what is his name and what course he enrolled in and what is the price and what is the validity. However, there is a lifetime validity for all my courses, so there will be lifetime default value. Now what I am trying to explain here, it properly maintained in a format of tables. Now because if I have 10 courses students information and if I want to access them, it will use a proper table that each entry it treats as a record. Okay, one complete student information it will store in a record saying that what course he is enrolled in and what price he has used to subscribe it. Okay, all the information. I'm just giving a basic example. Now let's take a Google. Okay, it has YouTube account, it has Gmail account, and it has Google Maps, Google Images, and now they have so many of files and so many code check-in files to develop those components. So for YouTube they use a separate table, okay, to handle that, and for Gmail they'll have separate table. All these tables will be in a database. Okay, a database is a single instance which carries multiple tables. One table is dedicated to YouTube users and one table is dedicated to Gmail users and such on, right? So everything is stored in a form of tables, and in each table we will get one particular file information in the form of record, that is row. So as I said you here, now if I want to get information about my students, there is a table called student table. Now here each row will clearly explains about one record, like who is the student and what course he enrolled in. Okay, right, that's the basic part. Now if anyone asks you what is database, it is a management system which store data, but it stores the data in the form of tables. Okay, and each table will have multiple rows, and each row will have the record information of one file or one person or one thing, whatever it is. So that we will store in the form of records. Fine. Yeah, now let's see now what is the role of SQL here. So we understood that there is a database and there are tables in it. Now where SQL comes into picture in this scenario, let's see that. Yeah, here it is. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. So one single line to make you to understand is it can communicate with the database. Now I said that the information is stored in the tables in database. Now to talk to that database or to talk to that table, we need some command, some language. Assume that now there is a guy, you want some information from that particular guy. So how do you talk? You talk in a language so that that database can understand. Okay, if you ask him what is the time, and he may say time is 5 p.m. in the evening. Fine. So that language you use in the same way here is an SQL. So in that guy place, just assume database and he has all the information. Now if you want to talk to database to get information, the language what you use is SQL. So that's we say a structured query language. Okay, basically it's used to communicate with database. Now we are storing all our information in tables and all. Now there is a guy called Jim. Okay, he got enrolled in one of my courses, but I do not know what course he got enrolled in. So he is asking some query about check the 44th video, that something is missing in that. Okay, now how could I get what course he enrolled in? So I can talk to my database giving SQL language, that is structured query language, and ask there is a guy called Jim, in what course he is enrolled in, and I'll get an answer within millisecond. So that's the power of database, and that's the power of the language what we are communicating with it. That's nothing but SQL, structured query language. And as I said, these are the features you will get with SQL. You can execute queries against the database and get your desired output, and you can retrieve the data, and also you can insert new records as well. And tomorrow one more guy joined in my database testing or SQL course. Okay, so I need to enter his record, his information into my table. So you can also do by inserting record with the help of this communication language. Okay, it's not only retrieving data, you can also insert the new information into the tables in database, or you can update the values data in the database. You can delete data from the database. Everything you can do with the language called structured query language, which is SQL, which we are going to learn in this course. Okay, so what next? So as I said, you can also create new databases. You can also create tables, databases, everything you can do with an SQL. As I said, this is communication language, right? You can ask a person to just give a new information saying that, hey, this is the new time in this Eastern time zone. Please keep it in your mind. That means you are giving new information to that person. In the same way, with this language SQL, you can create new record as well in that database, or you can create database itself. Everything you can do by hitting queries. So basically that's the language we say, and we talk to them using queries. And how to write a query to hit the database, how to get the values, what kind of queries we need, everything we are going to learn as part of this course. And also how to test the database which is already existing in. So those scenarios are everything covered. So as part of this course, I guess you are now clear with what is SQL, what is database, and what is table. The three major terminologies which used across the SQL language. Okay, and there is still one more important concept which you need to know, and one of the most confusing one. Yeah, it's the DBMS.